Namaskar and welcome to StudyIQ. I am your friend Rahul Saigamkar. There are no prizes for guessing today's agenda of the discussion. We are going to discuss about Nobel Prizes. We already laid the ground for Nobel Prize discussion last week itself when we discussed the nitty-gritties connected with Nobel Prize, and I told you that the announcement would come in first week of October. And on October 2nd, 2023, the first Nobel Prize for Medicine or Physiology has been announced. It has been given for a research towards mRNA modification. The mRNA modification research has paved the way for discovery of COVID-19 vaccines during the COVID-19 pandemic. The recipients of the award are two people, Katalin Kariko and Drew Weissman. In fact, Katalin Kariko becomes 13th woman who has been the recipient of a medicine physiology based award for Nobel. Let's try to understand their research. But before that, let me give you a small overview of Nobel Prize very quickly, although we have discussed this, but this can be like a revision for you. I told you that the Nobel Prizes would be announced in the first week of October from 2nd to 9th October. And on 2nd October, day 1, the award for medicine or physiology has been announced. Now, we all know that the Nobel Prizes were instituted by Alfred Nobel, a Swedish chemist, engineer, innovator. And the prize money for Nobel Prizes, it comes from his own fortune. He has bequeathed his fortune through a will for creation of Nobel Foundation and the prize money for Nobel winners. Now, Nobel himself was an innovator and he holds more than 355 patents. I had told you this. Now, apart from this, we need to understand that Nobel Prizes are awarded in 5 categories, and the Nobel Prizes, the money for that comes from Nobel Foundation, which was set up in 1900. From the very next year, 1901, the Nobel Prizes were announced, and it continues every year. They are given basically in 5 categories: medicine or physiology, physics, chemistry, literature, and a Nobel Peace Prize. Now, apart from this, there is another 6th award which is given, that is Nobel Prize for Economics. But this does not come specifically from the Nobel Foundation, or the prize money does not come from Alfred Nobel's will. The prize money comes from Sveriges Riksbank, and this Sveriges Riksbank itself, it's called Sveriges Riksbank Prize in Economics, and the prize money, it comes from the Riksbank itself, and it was started from 1968. We have established all these things. Apart from this, I told you that the announcement happens generally in the first week of October for the Nobel Prizes, and the awards are given on December 10th, which is the death anniversary of Alfred Nobel. Alfred Nobel expired on say December 10, 1896. Now, apart from this, whenever the Nobel Prize is awarded, there is a certificate which is given. Now, this was the Nobel Peace Prize given to Barack Obama, a certificate from the Nobel Foundation towards the contribution. Apart from that, a medal is given, and along with the medal, a cash prize is also given. And this cash prize, I told you, for the 5 categories, it comes from Alfred Nobel's will, or his fortune itself. Now, his fortune is invested through the Nobel Foundation in different wealth-based instruments, and the prize money comes from that. The prize money is 10 million kroner, which translates to roughly 900,000 US dollars, depending on the exchange rate. So almost $1 million worth check is handed out to the contributors. Apart from that, the winners are decided through different institutions. In Alfred Nobel's will itself, it was written that who is going to decide the winners. The Royal Swedish Academy will decide the winners for physics, chemistry, as well as economics. Since 1968, they are also giving award for economics. And the current medicine and physiology award, it is announced by Karolinska Institute. Apart from that, the literature prize is announced by Swedish Academy, and the Nobel Peace Prize is decided by the Norwegian Parliamentary Committee, a committee of 5 people from Norway Parliament. They will decide the Peace Prize. Now, we had discussed about this, and this is basically according to the will of Alfred Nobel. And now, this Karolinska Institute, they have announced the awards. Let's come back to the news now. You can see here, Nobel Prize in Physiology and Medicine 2023 through the press release by the Nobel Assembly at the Karolinska Institute has been awarded to 2 people. This is Katalin Kariko and this is Drew Weissman. It has been awarded jointly for their contribution towards the mRNA research, for their discoveries concerning the nucleoside-based modification that enabled the development of effective mRNA vaccine. We have seen during COVID-19, the world's first mRNA vaccine was given authorization. Now, this nucleoside, it's a technical term. Today's discussion would be a little technical because we will be understanding the Nobel Prize for Medicine and Physiology. Now, nucleoside, you do know, this is basically a combination of a nitrogen base plus a pentose sugar, right? When we had discussed about science and technology, we know about DNA, RNA. So a pentose sugar plus a nitrogen base is a nucleoside, and when you add another phosphate group to it, now this combination, it becomes nucleotide. All right, it becomes nucleotide. So nucleoside is only a nitrogen base plus a sugar molecule, right? So based on this research, they have been given the Nobel Prize. Now we need to understand a little bit about mRNA vaccine, then we'll talk about the research by Katalin, Kariko and Drew Weissman. The first thing that we need to understand is what are the nuances between traditional medicine and mRNA vaccines, traditional vaccines and mRNA vaccines. Now we all know that we have a universal immunization program in India. So a lot of Mission Indradhanush, a lot of vaccines are given to children from the age, say 0 months basically till 18 years, different vaccines are given. Now, most of them are traditional vaccines because the world's first mRNA vaccine itself was approved during the COVID-19 itself because of the emergency due to the pandemic. The traditional vaccines, they are basically the live microbe or attenuated microbe. For instance, the classic example of this would be the polio vaccine that we take. What happens in traditional vaccine? A weak live microbe is given, or a dose of weak live microbe is given, so that the immune system of a person, it gets acquainted with it, it finishes off that microbe and it gets that acquired immunity. The concept of vaccination is based on that acquired immunity. So a live microbe or a weakened attenuated microbe or an attenuated vaccine is given. Now polio is this attenuated microbe itself. You do know the oral polio vaccine, it is a weak polio virus itself. Now once that weak polio virus is given, then the individual's immune system, it is going to act against it and we acquire immunity for a very long term. Apart from that, traditional vaccines, through research and development, we have developed different kind of conjugate vaccines as well as recombinant protein based vaccines. Mainly for influenza, the influenza vaccine is a conjugate based vaccine. And you do know that these vaccine production, it takes a lot of time, decades together. But mRNA vaccine, mRNA basically means a messenger RNA. It is based on messenger RNA modification where I develop some sort of immune response. That means my immunoresponse modulation is developed according to that mRNA, the messenger RNA. Now, as I told you, the traditional vaccines work something like this. Means a weakened or an inactivated virus or a viral vector or this recombinant protein, it is injected in human body, or it can be given orally or through injection, and the body acquires immunity. My immune system will respond to it. This is the traditional vaccine setup. But mRNA vaccine is a relatively newer technology. I would say the research by Katalin, Kariko and Drew Weissman, it has been going on for almost 2 decades now. It has been quite revolutionary. And it is quite ironical that Alfred Nobel wanted to give prize away, or in his will he had mentioned that the prizes should be given for relatively new discoveries, new inventions. But this happens. You do know that scientists, they give away their life, decades of their research together to even win a Nobel Prize. From 1990s, research has been going on the mRNA modification. So what is the benefit of this mRNA modification or mRNA vaccine? We need to understand. See, there are 2 big disadvantages to traditional vaccines. First of all, traditional vaccine, it takes a very long time for development. It takes almost decades together for clinical trials, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and eventually getting that authorization. So development of a traditional vaccine is quite slower. Apart from that, there is one more disadvantage, that yes, it can be highly effective, but it may not be very safe for everyone. Why? Because it's quite understandable. We are giving a weakened virus or an inactivated virus, and that virus can attack the host body itself. We are only injecting or we are only giving the weakened virus. So we can talk about the vaccine-derived polio cases, because of which many countries are right now struggling to even eradicate polio from their countries, because vaccine-derived polio is one classic example. Because of the vaccine itself, the host will get polio disease, right? So two disadvantages. One is slower development. The other one is it can adversely impact the host body. These two disadvantages of traditional vaccines are completely resolved by the mRNA vaccine. First thing, the mRNA vaccines are quite faster for their development in terms of research as well, in terms of manufacturing and development also. Apart from that, they are quite effective for vast majority because there is no vaccine derived disease itself. But there are a few issues with mRNA vaccine. The first issue is its shelf life is a little lower. It's only up to 6 months in comparison to traditional vaccine. Traditional vaccines, their life or shelf life varies from 1 year to 3 years, again depending on vaccine to vaccine. Apart from that, there is one more issue. The traditional vaccines, they more or less give you a lifelong immunity. Again, it depends or varies from vaccine to vaccine, but in majority of the cases, they do give you a long-term immunity. But with mRNA vaccines, it will give you immunity for a short period. Later on, you might need booster shots. But you do understand, the mRNA vaccines, they would be groundbreaking because the pros, they outweigh the cons for sure. And that is why this mRNA vaccine is going to be a game changer even in future. So I hope with this base for you, between the difference between mRNA and traditional vaccines, mRNA vaccine and traditional vaccines, let's now get into the research. As I told you, two people have received the award, Katalin Kariko, born in Hungary, and Drew Weissman, he was born in Massachusetts in USA. They both started collaborating in 1990s. Now, Kariko, her background is RNA biochemistry itself, and Weissman's expertise is in immunology. So both of them, they started collaborating. In fact, it's a very sad thing to understand that this research has been revolutionary, and it is said that Katalin Kariko, she did not get the requisite funding from when she applied for different schemes, right? So it's quite sad news, but nonetheless, the ultimate achievement, the ultimate Nobel has been accorded on Kariko and Weissman. So what happened with them? They realized that the immune reaction of human body, it is linked to the fundamental difference between the messenger RNAs that are present already in our body and the messenger RNA which are produced outside in the lab and then injected. That means the in vitro mRNA that is injected to a person, there is a fundamental difference between the both. They realized that the mRNA that we have in general, human body has RNA editing system. You do know that, right? I'll talk about that as well. But what they realized was natural mRNA has its own editing ideas or chemical modifications that happen naturally, and that do not happen in lab produced mRNA. They realize it very quickly. Now, if you look at the natural RNA editing, we do have RNA. RNA is a single strand, and you do understand that there is a modification. Why? Because DNA has adenine, guanine, thymine, and cytosine, but RNA has adenine, guanine, thymine, and uracil. That is uracil or uridine. So the diversity of RNA editing is quite natural in our body, in humans, in different species basically. So what happens is cytidine or cytosine, it transforms into uridine. We know that. In many cases, even adenosine or adenine, it transformed into inosine. Apart from that, we also have many non-template nucleotide additions and insertions in the RNA, depending on the job of the RNA, messenger RNA, transcription RNA, etc. Right? So what they realized that natural RNA has its own editing, which basically encodes some sort of protein. So what Katalin Kariko and Drew Weissman did was they started to tweak around or work around with the messenger RNA bases. Now, as I told you, the RNA contains 4 bases, that is adenine, guanine, cytosine, and you have uracil or uridine. So you have ATGC in your DNA, and you have AUGC in your RNA. Correct? So there is natural editing or natural transformation which happens. So these the team of Kariko and Weissman, these people, they started to modify the RNA. They wondered, if we modify the bases, then can we understand the immune response? And they got success as well. So what they did was, to investigate it, they produced different variations of mRNA with unique chemical alterations. Now, how did they do it? They did it through different biochemical reactions, biochemical modifications in the RNA. That means they added, or they removed and added some other nitrogen bases. All right. So what happened because of this? The immune response was studied, and they were successful to explain that immune response as well. In fact, they published a paper way back in 2005 where they reported that the immunity by replacing uridine in RNA by a pseudo-uridine, it would reduce the inflammatory response greatly. That means the immune response is modulated. You can see here, this is the unmodified mRNA where you have uridine. And what Weissman and team that they did were, they modified the base from uridine to pseudo-uridine, and then they saw that there was no inflammatory response. So later on, they were able to replicate it through different research. In 2008, they also proved that by using pseudo-uridine, it could increase the amount of protein that is made up by the mRNA as well. So it was a groundbreaking research which eventually led to development of mRNA vaccines. Now, their work was picked up by different companies. Their work was picked up by several companies in 2010 itself. Their work was picked up by different companies to develop mRNA vaccines, and they are still working. They're even now working on development of vaccines for the Middle East respiratory syndrome, that is a kind of a coronavirus itself. Apart from that, Zika virus, etc. But the groundbreaking research that these two people conducted and their team conducted, it was used ultimately to develop the vaccine for COVID-19. World's first mRNA based vaccine was developed by BioNTech and Pfizer itself. BNT coded mRNA vaccine was developed. In fact, BioNTech, they employed Kariko as a senior vice president until very recently. All right. So this has been the great contribution of these scientists towards mRNA modification. In fact, the research had been going on since late 1990s. Eventually in 2005, they published paper. In 2008, they reproved it again, and eventually the work has been recognized. In fact, many people have congratulated and highlighted the importance of this research. Dr. Anthony Fauci, he says that this is a recognition for the mRNA modification research, which laid the ground for vaccination of, I would say, billions of people in the world. Okay, it may not have happened in India because we developed our own vaccine, right? We had our own vaccine. We did not have mRNA vaccine, but many countries, for instance, in USA, mRNA vaccine has been given to millions of citizens there. In fact, this research is going to be groundbreaking going forward. Why? Because till now, whatever mRNA modifications the team did, right? Kariko and Weissman, the team that they did was basically through biochemical modification. But in recent times, for last decade or so, we have been talking about CRISPR technology, and CRISPR has been very versatile and it is quite feasible for modification. Till recently, we had discussed about CRISPR technology being used in base editing, and using this, we can expect more and more mRNA based modification research going forward. In fact, many experts also highlight that one of the most promising advantages of mRNA research may be to develop immune responses even to attack tumors. That means it's not exactly going to work like a vaccine, but I would say if you simply take an mRNA drug, it would work like a drug itself. That if you have some sort of a disease, then mRNA research based chemicals or vaccines, they might even work as a drug for a disease. Although no mRNA based drug has been approved till now. In fact, till recently only one of few vaccines have been approved regarding COVID-19. We do know that, but there are many companies who, like Moderna, other companies, some academic trials are going on where mRNA based drugs are being tested for variety of diseases ranging from cystic fibrosis to heart diseases. So this research is going to be game changing. It is going to change our lives. It's not just for development of vaccines, but in fact mRNA based research can help us heal, can help us fight many diseases like even heart diseases and other diseases. It's going to be a game changing development going forward. We'll keep an eye on that. But from exam perspective, I hope you have understood what exactly is the research for which Nobel Prize Physiology and Medicine has been awarded. Please keep a track of this on StudyIQ IAS English. We will be discussing all the other Nobel Prizes as well as and when they are discussed. In fact, on 3rd October, 4th October, 5th October, different Nobel Prizes would be awarded, and we'll be discussing that on our channel. Do follow it. Do share these videos as well so that knowledge spreads, right? So that's it from this particular video. Before I move on, there's a big news for all the UPSC civil services aspirants. StudyIQ is presenting the P2I, Prelims to Interview initiative, at the lowest price. At the lowest price. These prices have been dropped. The starting price is just 23,999, that is 24K basically. In 24K, you will be preparing for prelims, mains, interview, all the modules. Just visit our website www.studyiq.com. We have 3 different plans. It's available in different language formats as well. Go there, enroll as soon as possible. The October batch is starting from 10th October 2023. Enroll. I'll see you in the class. Thank you again for watching this. Jai Hind.